Now that led us to even more of a global presence.
You started developing these companies for your own use.
When you're providing for your own company, when you've got services within the group, you've got to make sure that you've got the very best. That level of integrity, the level and standards that we provide to within the company group is something that we are proud of.
And this is why you call your clients not buyers, but investors.
I have a big problem with selling. I think that the integrity of selling jeopardizes your advisory as an investment company. Our agents do not and will not hard sell.
Spoiled with the great choice, it's everything about Dubai, right?
That's a difficult pill to swallow when you've got a huge commission. Do your research, okay? Ask the questions. Ask for the data. Matthew Hurley, CEO, welcome to my first podcast. Here to talk to you about Poseidon Group, our investment, our strategies, and working with you in the future in the UAE.
Hi Matthew, how are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me today.
I'm so excited to have you here today because I have so many questions that we need to discuss about Dubai real estate market, about common problems, their future trends. But before we start, I just really wanted to ask you, have you ever thought that you would work in real estate in Dubai?
Real estate in Dubai? No, of course not originally. Transitioned through Dubai for a long time, lots of different companies. Real estate opportunities, Dubai itself, the changes, the excitement of Dubai has drawn me here. Now a resident, so naturally with the business and the setup of the business that we'll talk about subsequently, it was a natural transition to move here, to set up the company, to extend our operations and to extend our work. So very, very fortunate to be in a position to be in this market at this time.
What's so special about Dubai? Why so many investors? Why so many people move to Dubai?
I think it's not just Dubai in terms of the investment and the real estate. I think it's as much to do with the vision, the leadership. Dubai, UAE, and we don't just invest into Dubai itself, it's pan-Emirati states. The excitement of Dubai, the futuristic concepts, the idealism, the growth of the financial markets, the acceptance of the multiculturalisms, driven this amazing product. And yes, that's what draws people. And of course, there's other financial considerations such as tax, lifestyle, family, cultural acceptance. And I think that the combination of all of that with the strong leadership and vision that I mentioned is something that's going to continue to actually fuel this interest into this country, which is going to continue to realize some unique opportunities, not just in the immediate, medium, but also long term.
So you think that the interest towards Dubai going to only rise in the future years?
Definitely. I mean, I look at global instability, I look at geopolitical, I look at the region, and I look at the UAE. I mean, it's the market leader, as I've explained previously. And of course, when we're looking at real estate in particularly, when we look at price points, when we look at the growth of the population, when we look at the 2030, 2040 plans for this country, it's unprecedented. The growth which should be realised and will be realised, as I've said previously, through the economic growth, through the growth of population, will lead to long-term growth within the real estate market.
But here we are today to talk not only about Dubai real estate market, but also about your story. You have quite a remarkable story. You were born and raised in the UK and then served 12 years in army. How did these experiences in your life influence who you are now? And are there any values that drive your business decision that you learn?
Well, see, interestingly, I think everybody's experiences in life actually set one's decisions throughout their life's journey. So in particularly when I was younger, I went away to a boarding school at a young age. I absolutely loved it. A lot of people don't. But at that stage, going away when you're younger, you have independence, your decision making, you've got to look after yourself. And that molded me in a way which naturally drew me towards, as you've mentioned, the military. In the army, very, very fortunate to experience and to be able to help a large amount of people through the different deployments I had globally. I think that in itself, and I went to officer school, a place called Sandhurst, at a very young age, age of 20, sitting there with upwards of 50 troops in Northern Ireland, sitting on a baseline during the Troubles. You learn independence, you learn leadership, you learn management. And that molded me as a person, that exposed me throughout global deployments to different cultures and different opportunities, which actually led me into a pathway to look at different opportunities that possibly weren't available to others. Because, of course, the international deployments that we went on, and I experienced everything from South America to the Middle East to Central Europe, Eastern Europe, and the former Yugoslavia. It gave me a great understanding of the world. I think I was deployed in over 16 countries throughout the 12 years, whether that be through training or what we call operational tours, which included peacekeeping.
I know that you were not just serving in army, you were part of the UN peacekeeping missions.
Yeah, during my tenure in the army, we had 12 years. I served in Bosnia, I served in Kosovo on UN missions. I was deployed as one of the lead trainers for the lead task force in South America, which was based in Buenos Aires for the mission to go to Haiti. That part of it, the UN side, the exposure to multiculturalism, the ability to actually negotiate peace, to implement peace, to work for peaceful solutions is really important in terms of my exposure, my maturity, my growing up, my ability to actually talk to different people with different ideas, different ideologies, and I very much enjoyed that as part of the career that I had.
At what point of life you decided to move from army to businesses?
Well, peculiarly, and a lot of my fellow officers will comment on this, I spent a lot of the time what we call in the field, constantly away, constantly doing training, not doing any of the education that was required to remain in the army. When you get to a certain seniority, of course, you have to do various courses as part of your officer training. I managed to skip those, which was great for me at the time, but would have meant that I had to do a lot of what we call education and then desk jobs to actually expand my understanding and to go on to the next seniority levels. Now, it reached a stage where I didn't want to do that. I believed that I had opportunities which were based around my deployments in the army, which would allow me to use the necessary skills that the army gave me, whether that be the leadership and management roles or the exposure in different countries, to set up businesses based upon all of the essential real-life education that I'd received.
So now you have the group of companies, let's call it 360-degree services, starting from what to what industry?
Well, we have Poseidon Group, and that's the brand. Within Poseidon Group, we have 28 different companies which are operating across multi-sectors in various countries around the world. We're based in 4 different continents at the moment. So our initial entry point was in South America and former Yugoslavia, 2 countries that I hold, or areas that I hold very dearly to my heart. These are places where I'd established myself, that I had good contacts through the deployments in the army. Naturally then found partners, like-minded people who I could set up the companies and explore opportunities with. So the entry point for all of this was down to knowledge, experience, and then we looked at various businesses. Now, coming on to where and what we're talking about today, the real estate market, we are not a brokerage. We actually entered real estate market through the Croatia, which was part of former Yugoslavia, of course, part of governed under Tito until the Troubles there. We were and we are a large developer. We have our own construction arm. We built tourist, residential and commercial developments throughout the whole region now. And we started in Croatia, expanded it into Bosnia, Slovenia, Serbia. And it's been a great success, and it's been very interesting. It's been successful. And from the development and construction, we've built a manpower business. Now, why did we do that? Well, we needed manpower for our own construction business. We needed manpower for our own security business. We needed cleaners for our own facilities management business. So the group itself evolved, and it was opportunity-based, based upon where we were operating and what we needed to do to service our own companies. So it's been an interesting evolution. Now, that led us to even more of a global presence, of course. That allowed us to look beyond the regions where we'd initially set up. We started servicing in the Middle East, GCC. We're a very large provider of manpower throughout the region at the moment, mainly educated, skilled medical engineers. Hospitality is one of a large segment of our manpower operations as well. So it's been an interesting journey that's led us now back into Dubai, having worked through the region, but not specifically invested or had a specific company operating in this exact location, if that makes sense.
This is actually such an amazing approach. It also means that your clients, the clients of this group of companies, can trust your services, because originally you started developing these companies for your own use, right? You needed manpower. You started training people to get qualified workers, to qualified employees. And this is how it sets this specific level of quality and trust.
Well, I think that it's interesting you say that. I think, when you're providing for your own company, when you've got services within the group, you've got to make sure that you've got the very best, whether that be a facilities management service, looking after your commercial retail parks, whether that be, like you've said, the manpower that you are recruiting within to the companies that you need to facilitate the services that those companies are providing. And of course, that level of integrity, the level and standards that we provide to within the company group is something that we are proud of, and it's something that we make sure that we can do as good as, if not better, for our clients.
That was quite an interesting story. I now want you to focus more on the Dubai market and the company that operates here. Why have you decided to open a company in Dubai?
Because of my travels, because of where we were operating companies, and we operate under a family office under the group of companies, which is called Poseidon Group of Companies. It made sense for me for logistical reasons, for travel reasons, to be in Dubai. But beyond that, I had identified the trend and what was going on since 2008 in Dubai, been following it closely in terms of the residential market. We'd seen ups, downs, and I was convinced with what was happening with the decision-making from the government and the leadership here that we were going to see something special happening. So tracking what was happening, looking at what happened in COVID, we made a commitment to come here 5 years ago and to start investing the family office investment fund money into residential property here. So we are an investor. We invested our money, and that's how we've actually gained the knowledge and the different, what I would call advisory, and our strategy has been developed with our own investments in Dubai and within the UAE as a whole.
You started exploring Dubai as an investor for your family office.
Yeah.
And your experience was not so pleasant in the beginning.
Let's go back to agents. I think there's a big problem with agents. It's suggested that there's over 200,000 agents.
Wow, that's a lot.
Now, only, I think at the moment, my understanding says 30,000 are registered, and we can come on to that. But when you've got 200,000 with a population nearing 4 million, which includes all workers in Dubai itself, that's 1 in 20 people. It's extraordinary to think that many people are trying to sell property. Now, we understand the boom, we understand the provision, the supply, we understand that there's a huge interest, but not enough property for everybody to sell. So what does that mean? What does it mean for agents? Majority of agents do not receive medical, they're not listed, they have to work on commission only. They don't have support from companies. Some companies have 800 agents working for them. Some of these agents are trying to look after families in diverse, poor regions of the world. Let's say, it's very, very difficult to be an agent. So when we're talking about lying, I think we need to understand that they are selling. I have a big problem with selling. I think that the integrity of selling jeopardizes your advisory as an investment company. So when we talk about agency, we have set up an agency, but that was to support primarily and in first instance our investments. We wanted to make sure that we could get correct information. We wanted to make sure that we were dealing with our own agents who would explain and negotiate. Now, to make something clear, we are an investment company offering our clients investment advice, whether that be to buy a single unit, whether that be a different product that we offer, which is a portfolio management service, or whether it be a fund, which we are about to register in DIFC. Our strategy remains the same. We have our own agency to support the investments of our family office and to support the investments of our clients. The difference that we can make and the difference of the approach that we actually have compared to other people is, as I've said, it's an investment company supported by a brokerage. Our agents do not and will not hard sell. They do not and will not and are not allowed to incentivize, to act. Let's call it, there's that great film, Wolf of Wall Street. Everyone's after the sell. Everybody's after the commission. That's not what we're about. We've got different strategies. We pride ourselves on being an investment company supported by the brokerage, if that makes sense. So I don't think they're lying. I don't think that's hard. I think some of them are brilliant salespeople, but then you get into a problem in terms of advisory if you're looking at sales and commission versus investment advisory. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. And this is why you call your clients not buyers, but investors.
Yes.
Because I know that there was a case when you denied the deal and you could get the good commission, but for the client in the long term, this deal was not good. And your company declined this kind of deals.
Look, I mean, this was a couple of units. An investor came to me. It was actually going to be an end user, but of course, an end user wants to realize that what they're buying is good value, will increase in value, as in capital growth, and it's the right decision for them. So for absolutely everybody, whether investing 100,000 or 100 million, we make sure that they have the same expertise, the same investment advice. This particular client wanted to invest $15 million because we've got a deep understanding of how construction and development works, because within the group, that is one of our areas of expertise. We went to see the construction director. We weren't happy with what they were selling, what they were being told, and we made that very clear to our client. Now, that's a difficult pill to swallow when you've got a huge commission that would have earned as best part of $750,000 or whatever it was at the time. I can't remember, 5 or 6%. But clients are long-term clients. We look to manage portfolios. We look to give the correct advice so that we create relationships. And that's what it's all about. And to do that, it's very interesting how the Dubai market has reacted. You've got DLD, RERA. They're constantly looking at bettering processes, procedures to correct investors. When we look at 2008, there was a lot of developments that went wrong with the crash. A lack of control, which happens everywhere in the world when there's a downturn in the market, meant that people were losing money. Off-plan developments were not being realized quickly as you can. And this is what I love about Dubai. I love about the leadership. Strongest in the world as far as I'm concerned. They immediately address problems, put in protective measures or make changes based upon real-time situations. They react. They make sure, especially in real estate now, that certain parameters and protections were put in through extending the laws and regulations within the real estate industry. Simple, stupid for off-plan. They introduced protection measures where developers, when they're taking off-plan money, they have to put it into an escrow account, which is controlled and held through a government entity, and the money's only released when certain construction hurdles are realized. Brilliant. Where else in the world does that happen? Not a lot of places. I don't even know if it happens anywhere else in the world. And I think it's those type of decisions, the forward-thinkingness of the government, which gives investors a lot of confidence in the market itself, which is fantastic.
You say that your company's approach is based on data that you can get from DLD and other institutions that openly, publicly share the information about the market, about the key numbers, but many people don't use these numbers. Why does it happen?
Well, from my perspective, I've got no idea why. we're from a commercial property background. Commercial property is more of a science. You have a piece of land. When you buy it, before you buy it, you understand what tenants are going to come in. You're working out based upon your appraisals, the profitability of a scheme all the way through from buying the site to build to the long-term yields that can afford you, such as retail park shopping centres. What we have now, which is extraordinary, is DLD introducing this data and releasing it through various companies, through various licenses, where you can get updated data once a day. Well, I think it might be twice a day. Now, what does that mean? It means that if I'm going to be buying something downtown, if I'm going to be buying something in Business Bay, on the Palm, Motor City, I can see not only trends within the area over the past year, I can actually see real time what was sold that day. So when people talk about valuations, people talk about speculative pricing, that doesn't exist anymore. I can go into an area, I can look at a specific building, I can look at a development and tell you what sold like for like, real time at that time. And for me, I'm not interested in anything else or what people's opinions are. That is what the value of a product is. Like for like in the same area, real-time data on that day. That gives me my start point. That gives me my valuation. That gives me my price per square foot. So that we can then advise clients real-time with proper reports on whether they are transacting, whether they're buying on that day at the correct price. There's some horror stories. Some of the biggest developers, I understand price inflation. I understand that they are trying to drive prices up. A lot of their prices are driven up through extensive marketing, extensive commissions. I'll give you an idea on that. Normally in Europe, your commission and marketing budget is between 3 to 5%. 5% being very generous. Some developers here are affording up to 30%.
30%.
Now, where is that 25% being carried? It's not going into the quality of the build. It's going on to the price points. Okay, so look, end of the day, for me, this is turning residential investment into a science. This data turns it into a science and allows us, for every single client we have, whether they're buying a single property and multiple properties within a portfolio or investing into our future fund, the ability to see with transparency how we can work and how we can actually make real money based upon real-time data, today's pricing, trends from previous, and then being able to look forward in terms of capital growth and understanding the returns on investment that can be achieved.
So basically, what would you recommend for investors who come to this market?
Yeah, I think, there's over 286 developers at the moment. You need to understand whether you want to buy off-plan, whether you want to buy secondary. First point, make sure that you are dealing with an agency and a developer who is registered. You ask for licenses and you check the background of not only the agent, but the company itself. Ask for the company license. Ask for the agent's registration. Very, very important, so that at least you've got somebody that you know has qualified and can be qualified to give you the advice and to transact on your behalf. Beyond that, of course, there's so many products out there. We've got 286 developers. We've got so many different areas of Dubai. Do your research. Okay, ask the questions. Ask for the data. We mentioned it earlier. Ask for an investment report. Ask for an investments report specific to the area that you're buying in. That is available to everybody. All of the agents that work here will have access to this data, so ask for it. So you've got the license and the data, bring those two together, and then you can make decisions and educated decisions with protection.
As soon as I make the decision, what about the contracts? Are there any templates, or do I need some help to prepare them?
So it's a peculiar situation where contracts are prepared by the agents and the agency itself, and it's all done through an online registration system. So the contractual process in terms of forms A and B, which is representative of the buyer and the seller, which moves forward to what we call the MOU, the Form F, which is a purchase contract for secondary. Or if you look at with developers, you have a reservation form and then an SPA. all of those contracts are pretty much standardized. When it comes to the bigger developers, you're not going to get them to change anything in those contracts. But the bigger developers will be producing. I wouldn't have any worries in terms of the contractual obligations there or within. In terms of the MOUs, which is the secondary market, so if you are buying something which is already built or something which is a second sale within the market. So somebody might have bought something off plan, they want to sell it before it's built, you have to go into this MOU. The terms and conditions of that can be tricky. Now, we have our own in-house legal team with legal training and a compliance team, so they advise our clients on that process. I have seen a lot of agents and a lot of brokerage companies that don't have that expertise. Now, that can lead to complications because within those contracts, there's certain conditions that have to be met and there's certain conditions that need to be agreed. So very important at that stage that you take the proper advice. And what I would recommend is to get a third-party opinion. Okay, always get a third-party opinion. There's plenty of lawyers here that will give you that opinion if you're not comfortable with the legal language, but also always ask for that legal check and ask whether they've got compliance teams who are legally qualified to be advising you on the contractual side.
This is such a common practice in Dubai when the agents who don't have any legal practice, no legal background, prepare the contracts, and then the clients have the troubles. And this is amazing that your company provides these 360-degree services, including the visas, including the schools preparation for the kids, who come here to study abroad. Can you tell more about the full-scale services that you prepare for your clients?
Well, I think importantly, you've mentioned something to start, which is wrong advice. You've got over 140 nationalities in Dubai. So let's just take that as a start point. Property owners from 140 places with a contract in Arabic and English. Unfortunately, agents are promising people that they'll be able to flip properties after 20% down payment within 3 months. It doesn't happen. A lot of these nationalities are not asking for these contracts to be translated. They don't really understand what they're reading. Now, that side of it and that compliance side is something that needs to not be paid lip service to. I would advise all nationalities to have some sort of a translation or a translator so that they can go through it methodically and or take legal advice. And that's created quite an ugly situation where a lot of people have not had the ability and have overextended themselves on the promises of agents. And this has led to what we call distressed assets. People who have to sell at a certain time before market value.
This is why it happens.
This is why it happens, because they've been promised X, they can't afford the payment plan to actually purchase this in full. They think they're going to double their money within 3 months, 6 months, and that is not reality. The advice on that side, and the advice we always give, is make sure that you can afford your investment. Make sure you can actually buy the property outright, whether it be initially through a mortgage on the secondary market or afford the payment plan, at least up to build. Now, importantly on that, and we've sat with multiple clients and we've had to sit with them and we've taken over their how do I call it? Not losses. We've taken over their position on what we call distressed clients. It's been chucked around figures, and I've spoken to multiple developers where over 20% of their client base that have bought off plan are not able to afford the payment plan and have missed 5 or more payments. That's a huge number when you look at what's being built by the developers that we have these relationships with. So we have that in-house. We have our advisory. We have multinational legal teams that can advise to make sure that all the proper advice is being given. Beyond that, of course, we look at the end-to-end service that you mentioned earlier. Very important for a lot of people is the visas, whether it be the golden visa, the 5-year visa, or the 2-year visa. And that's all dictated by the entry point and what the person is able to afford and to commit to. That's changing regularly. That's encouraging. The golden visa regularly changes in terms of the parameters, and that gives you 10 years in the country, which is unheard of. It's unprecedented, which again is very beneficial for the property market itself. Other services that we provide, and as we mentioned previously, we've got a lot of interest in the educational services, and that's within the group. So we've extended that and extended our global relationships with educational groups to look at and advise on education in the country itself, because a lot of people are relocating here, whether they be an investor or an end user. The golden visa, the education, even the introduction to quality banks. And I do love the financial services here, and we work with 4 of the top banks where we can help them set up the correct bank account with the correct relationship manager. So it is an end-to-end service. So initially it's, let's call it navigating the minefield, to use a military analogy, to make sure that you understand the investment, using the data to understand the investment. And then following on from that, we make sure that all of the lifestyle requirements and services that you may require can be afforded through one point of contact within the company itself. So it's, a 360-degree service as such.
I know that a very important part of this 360-degree services is your attention to education, because you know how much education is important. And I even know that you do charity and you adopted 11 girls after the earthquake of 2015 from Nepal. And now you help them with education as well. That's a great mission. And, I see the line that connects this value in yourself, in your company, from the very beginning, from your start of your journey in the UN peacekeeping forces. Now what you do for your clients, helping them all through the way here in Dubai and across the globe, and doing the charity and helping people. That's amazing. That's so important.
It's very kind, very kind. I mean, I've got to be honest, the 11 girls that call me dad, very fortunate to have them. And of course, education is key to the journey they've embarked on with us. So that was set up in 2015. I'm in Nepal every 6 weeks, and we've just had 5 finishing at 16, having to move them into different educational colleges. Some of them are at hospitality school. I've got my oldest who's now finished nursing college, got some doing an international UK curriculum, and others doing the local curriculum. So even within Nepal itself, we are constantly having to find solutions for our own girls. So, but thank you for mentioning that. But I'm fortunate to have them rather than the other way around, I think.
I bet that you know everything about the quality of education in each country across the globe. What can you say about education here in Dubai? Do you also work with some schools here? Do you help the parents who come as investors here to find a place for their kids?
Very much. I mean, education is key to the end user. The quality of the schools and the education, the diversity of the curriculums, whether it be an Indian, local, UK or baccalaureate system that you're looking for the education of your child. All the different schools offer all the different options, and you're spoilt for choice. Now, for me, education is finding the right school for the right child. It's not one glove fits all, if that makes sense, and you understand the expression. So, of course, we've got educational advisors that will sit down and speak to the parents about what they think that they need, to understand what the child needs, to understand the level of education and the type of curriculum that they would like to engage in Dubai within. And, there's most of the headmasters or educational specialists know and work with throughout, not just here, the region, actually.
Spoiled with a great choice. It's everything about Dubai, right?
I think that's it. I mean, you are spoilt everywhere, and it's actually understanding whether it be... I mean, it's an interesting thing that you say there. It's same as investment. So let's cut back, and it's you're spoilt for investment opportunities here. Now, we've discussed agents, we've discussed price points. I could talk to you about developers' manipulation of market price points, but we won't get into that, because actually overall, when we look at the strategic, when we look at the price points in Dubai from an investment strategy, over 5 years, they're seriously underpriced, whether you be on the coastal areas or inland or in new communities compared to most places in the world. You compare it to London, Paris, New York, Singapore, Hong Kong. You look looking at a global center now with financial industries growing and funds being registered every day here and in Abu Dhabi. So we're not worried about the long-term growth. We're not worried about being spoilt for choice. What we're trying to do for our investors is to advise them now on strategies that fit their appetite, whether they're looking at investing over 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whether they want secondary income-producing assets, so on and so forth. So I'm not worried about when people are talking about corrections in the market. There may be a correction. I think there is corrections needed in certain areas that are overpriced. For us as a company, when those corrections happen, that's good for us. Because unfortunately, a lot of people that have bought at the wrong time won't be able to afford their payment plans, and that's when we're going to step in. And I know that might sound merciless, but that's part of our strategy. So we do look at off-plan. That is one of the asset classes that we buy within and we advise within. We do look at secondary. When we're talking about secondary, that's to do with the return on investment and also capital appreciation within the areas that we're looking to maximize the sort of blended yield between future capital appreciation and the rent that you'll be getting from your property itself. But that distressed asset class, where we're buying off people that were possibly misled, or through future corrections, we're buying undervalued current assets, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much. That was such a fruitful discussion, full of insights. And in conclusion, I just wanted to ask for one piece of advice that you could give for the investors who are considering Dubai as a potential market for investment.
One piece of advice, understand the market and question any advice that you are given. Goes back to our key point. Ask for the data.
Ask for the data.
Ask for the data. That's it.
It's going to be my new motto.
Ask for the data. That's it.
That's
Absolute.
it. I also really liked your thesis about fit your appetite. Yeah, this is something very important to understand who you are and what you can do, and trust the data, trust the people who are qualified to give you good advice.
Well, I mean, I think, the point is, as I've said previously, we're an investment company. You don't pay for the investment advice. When you come to us, we will give you the data, we will give you the reports, and we will give you objective advice based upon investment data and reality. We're not going to upsell you something that we don't believe in. So everything that we advise to our clients is something, whether it be the area, the asset class that we've already invested in ourselves. And I think that's really important. So we're asking people to not put the money where we haven't put the money. And there's an expression, put your money where your mouth is. That's what we do in advance.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure, and I hope to see you again.
Can't wait for the next one, and we can get more specific about some different areas that might be of interest to the listeners.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much indeed.